What's doing, everybody? Welcome to the channel. I appreciate you for tuning in. If you've never been here before, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Everybody else, welcome back to the channel. For my first time viewers, let me inform you that I served 17 years in prison straight in the maximum security prison system in the state of New York. Not bragging about it, of course, not boasting about it. As I always say, being in prison is something that you should be embarrassed about, not something you should boast about. And that's the topic of today's video, is the fact that many people glorify prison, the fact that many people think it's a badge of honor to talk about being locked up in the prison system. And I don't come and tell my stories about being incarcerated while holding up any badge of honor. I am actually quite embarrassed about it. I am ashamed about it, and I wish that I never lived through the experience of incarceration. And there's many YouTubers that do the complete opposite. As you know, if you've watched prison channels, there's many guys. I'm not going to sit here and name them. That's not what this is about. But there's guys that sit there in their tank tops with their muscles popping out. And I was a shot caller, and I was this, and I was that, and this is the way the gangs go down, and this is what I was controlling, and it's all quite ridiculous. What makes it even more ridiculous is that I looked into many of those guys, and some of them only served 2-3 years in prison for nonviolent crimes. And then they come and say they were shot callers and controlling men in prison that are doing life sentences, controlling gangs inside a prison. Meanwhile, this punk was doing 2-3 years for a robbery. And many of them are like that. Many of them did time in medium security prisons, and now they're coming, whatever. So what I'm saying is, it is quite, I'll use the word again, ridiculous. Prison is not something to brag or boast about. And the reason that I come on the channel to talk about my prison experience is to hopefully deter the youth and adults from committing any negative lifestyle, any criminal lifestyle. I want you to refrain from that activity. I want you to refrain from drug addiction. But let's get to the prison itself and why it is nothing to glorify. We'll start with someone saying that they were a shot caller. Let me tell you who the shot callers are. The shot callers are the correctional officers that are in there. That's who the shot callers are. When you have a correctional officer telling you to drop your pants and spread your ass open to make sure you have no contraband, and he's looking in between the cracks of your ass, how can you call yourself a shot caller, right? When you have a correctional officer talking to you like you are a peasant, like you are a nobody, like you are nothing, like you're a cockroach, how are you going to glorify that? How are you going to glorify sitting in your cell eating a 25-cent ramen noodle soup because you have nothing else to eat that night? You can't go to the store to get food. You can't have DoorDash delivered or Grubhub delivered, but you're going to brag and boast about the position you're in. Does that make sense? How are you going to brag and boast when your mother is out in the free world, or your father, or your wife, or your children, or your son or your daughter, and you're in prison helpless, and you can't do anything for them in the world? You can't help them if they need you. If someone is beating up your daughter, if someone's abusing your daughter, you're incarcerated, you have an 18-year-old daughter, and her boyfriend is abusing her, smacking her around, shooting heroin with her, getting her addicted to drugs, and you can't do anything about it. But you're going to brag and boast about being in prison. You're going to glorify being in prison. There's nothing to glorify about being in prison. There's nothing to glorify about being a loser. You know what I was when I was in prison? I was a loser. That's what I was. I was losing at the game of life. And some of you may even be nice in the comments and go, oh, you weren't a loser. I was a loser. And it caused me to, even after incarceration, come into the free world and still be looked at as a loser because I was incarcerated. The people on the street, the other street people, the other criminals, the other drug addicts, the other people who are taking advantage of others in society might not look at you as a loser. That small circle of people who are a waste of life, of people who have no benefit, can't benefit you at all. They'll be, oh, yo, you was in prison. You was the man. Yo, I'm glad you're home. Get out of here with that garbage. You were a loser if you were in there. And that's what I was. I was in a powerless position, being talked to like a piece of garbage, starving sometimes at night, being abused the way I was spoken to, having to wash my underwear in the sink in cold water because the prison wasn't running laundry this week, having to wash up in my cell with a bucket. Do they tell you that when they're glorifying prison, that you have to wash your sweaty body, your dirty body? You come in from the yard at night, you can't even take a shower. When you come in from the yard at night working out, you can't take a shower. You go right to your cell and lock in the max prison. You come in, the yard closes at 9:30 at night. Now you're in your cell stinking, sweating like an animal. You got to wash up with a washcloth, soaking a washcloth in the sink, wringing it out and washing it. Glorify that. Glorify it when you call home and you're on the phone with your parents and they're crying that you're in prison. And they're telling you, we miss you, we want you home, we can't live without you. And you're in there, again, like a loser. Nothing to glorify about being in prison. And if you're a youngster and you think that it's a badge of honor that the other people that you were hanging out on the street with will look at you or put you up on a pedestal when you come home, what you have is a group of guys that they're nothing, they're nobody, they can't help you at all, they can't do anything for you. Those are the people that the people that are happy to see you in misery. Prison is a vicious place. Prison is a nasty place. Prison is a lonely place, a depressing place, a violent place. And as I said in my videos, how are you going to glorify when an officer tells you when you can wash your ass? When he tells you when you can use the phone? When he tells you what you can eat, where you can stand? I've been standing in an area and an officer tells you, and the way they talk to you is crazy, pardon my language, but you'll be standing somewhere and the officer will tell you, hey, stupid, the hell you doing standing over there? Get out of there. Go stand somewhere else. But you're a tough guy. These guys that make these videos, 200 pounds of muscles tattooed up. I was controlling the prison. Meanwhile, they got a 120-pound officer telling them, hey, asshole, get out of there before I lock you up, before I stick you in solitary confinement. Get out of there. But you're going to glorify that? You're going to glorify the fact that when you're incarcerated, you're getting so pushed so far behind in society. In other words, as the people in society are progressing, as the friends that you had or the people you know are getting married, finishing school, getting degrees, getting in good jobs, starting their own businesses, getting their wife pregnant, having a family, buying a new car, enjoying life, going out to dinner, making something of themselves, making something real of themselves. That is what you glorify. That is something you brag about. That is something a real man does. You see, I was confused when I was a kid about what a man was, right? And many people, many youngsters have that confusion. You see, because my father left when I was 4, and because I was abused, that's a whole nother story. My concept of what a man was became warped. I thought a man was how many women I could sleep with. Because that's what the older guys in my neighborhood, the street guys, they all wanted to have, yo, I was with this chick, I was with that chick, I took this girl home last night. So I wanted to be like that because I was naive. I was stupid. I was lost, right? I thought what a man was selling drugs, right? The drug dealers were the gangsters, the ones that people looked up to on the street, the ones that other street people looked up to. The guy with the girlfriends, the guy slinging drugs, the guy with the nice car, right? I thought I was the man with all those things. Because I could fight. I was a good fighter. So I would go into the bar and fight, beat someone's ass. People would point the finger. Yo, he's the man. Yo, Joe. Yo, Joey, you the man. Fish, you're the man. Made me feel like the man. I wasn't the man. I was losing. I was the man to those losers. That's who I was seen as the man by, to a group of losers. Meanwhile, society was looking at me like a waste. And that's what I was. I was a waste. Because a real man is someone who has goals. A real man is someone who has discipline. A real man is someone who's helping his neighbor. A real man is someone who goes out of his way for strangers. A real man is someone who lives with integrity and proper morals. A real man takes care of his wife and children. A real man isn't running around with a bunch of different girls. He's focused on one person and taking care of them and doing the right thing. This way, people could point the finger at him and say, that's a good guy. That's a good man. You go glorify prison. You want to glorify being in prison. You're nothing in prison. You're useless in prison. You're nobody in prison. You're a waste. You're considered a thorn in America's side when you're in prison. And then when you come home and you try and get a job, go into the job interview and glorify prison to the job. See if those credentials help you. And then let me tell you something. When you're young, it's all fun and games. But then as you get older, and you got to start taking care of yourself, and you have to have a job now, a real job to survive. All that glorifying prison is not going to benefit you at all. If you go into prison, you are wasting your life. If you go into prison, it is nothing to glorify. As I said, it is a depressing, miserable, sad, lonely, violent existence. Each day is an echo of the day before in prison. It is an attack on your spirit and soul. It is like being trapped under a steel and brick umbrella, and at night when you are trapped in your cell alone, you are choking in pain because you've ruined your life. When you go into prison, you ruined your life. And if you're lucky, if you're blessed enough, like me, to get out and have a second chance at life, you got to do it the right way. But my point is, don't ruin it to begin with. Living the right way is hard. I didn't say it was easy. It's not impossible. It's not that hard. But what I'm saying is staying focused on school, on getting a good job, on taking care of your neighbors, on doing the right thing. All right, it might not be the easiest thing in the world. But life is a little tough sometimes. Stay focused and determined. Don't take the easy way out and become a jailbird. I wonder at times, why society sometimes, even though I'm home from incarceration now for 12 years, right? Pardon me. I was released 12 years ago. And on one hand, I say to myself, why do people still judge me? I've been home for 12 years. Don't people believe in giving a second chance? Don't people understand that I've changed? But I have to understand that people are allowed to have their own opinion. And people don't have to forgive. Everybody doesn't have to forgive. And I understand that some people don't trust me because of my history. That an employer may not trust me because of my history. And that's what you do to self. That's what you do to yourself. Don't listen to these guys on the computer that glorify prison. All they're trying to do is get attention. All they're trying to do is get more viewers. All they're trying to do is get more followers so they can get more money by captivating a younger audience into making you believe that they're gangsters. A gangster is nothing to look up to. It's the truth, man. It's the truth. As corny as that may sound to you youngsters, it's nothing to look up to. Do the right thing. Live the right way. And it's never too late to change. Do it now. Do it now. Don't worry about your friends. A lot of teenagers, a lot of people worry what their friends will think. If you're hanging out with a bunch of guys that are getting into trouble, that are getting high, that are committing crimes or doing burglaries, and you feel that you can't get away from them, you know what I mean? You can. You could simply just get away from them. You could simply just start telling them, no, listen, I got something I got to go take care of. I can't hang out today. Yo, I got to go take care of this. I got to go take care of that. And just take yourself away from them and start making better decisions. Right? They'll forget about you anyway. They'll stay in their own life. You know, the main key, as I always says, I'm going to get ready to close. The main key is the drugs, man. You got to get off the drugs. If you're doing any drugs, you got to get off the drugs. You don't think right when you're on drugs. You're not motivated properly when you're on drugs. You know, so you got to get off of those, and you're not going to progress in life if you're doing drugs. You're going to stay stuck in the same rut. It's going to cost you money. You're going to be hurting your health. You're going to be risking being incarcerated. You know, it's just get away from them. Get away from them and start focusing on a better life. That's my message to you today. You know, if you're involved in any negative lifestyle or any negative people, get away from it. And you could simply doing that by making a choice. Nobody can make you do it. I can't make you do it. I can't force you to do anything. During my years of preaching to the youth and of ministering to the youth and of trying to educate the youth about the right way to live, about the dangers of drug addiction, the reality of prison, peer pressure, gang life, and prison reality. After spending over a decade talking to kids about those topics, there's two responses. There's the ones that listen to me and they end up doing the right thing and they end up having a much better life. They end up having a life that's pain free, not pain free. There's always going to be a little pain, but they're living a good, positive, goal orientated life. And they're like, thank you, Fish. I appreciate it, man. Your words help me live the right way. I'm grateful. And then the fact that they changed their life impacted everyone around them, impacted their entire family. Because when you change one life, you change a whole village. And then there's the ones that didn't listen to me. And they're out there still going in and out of the system. Some of them are out there dying. Some of them are out there ODing on drugs. They're destroying their families. They're getting life sentences, and they're stuck in that same cycle, right? So my point of that is saying is that I can't make some listen. I can't make them all listen to what I'm saying. That's up to you. It's your choice. It's your decision. Either you listen or you don't listen. But you reap what you sow, and you're the one that will pay the consequences. You're the one that will live through the consequences if you don't change into a positive life, man. But there is nothing to glorify about being in the prison system. You are a bum when you're in there. You are nothing when you're in there. You are treated like an animal when you're in there. And you have no power when you're in there. These guys say they were controlling the prison. They weren't controlling anything. If they were in control, why didn't they open the door to the prison and walk out if they were in control? Answer that question for me. The system is in control. How about this one? How about this one? They want to glorify prison. How about when they're locked up, when a man is locked up in prison and someone in the free world has got his girlfriend in bed, naked, caressing her body, slipping up inside of her? Is that something to glorify? Because that happens a tremendous amount of time. These guys in prison are acting like gangsters, acting like shot callers, acting like big shots, and meanwhile, someone got their girl in bed in the free world. Especially because the younger guys, they think their girl is remaining 100% faithful when she's 20 years old, 25 years old, and she's going out to the club and going out to the bar and hanging out with her girlfriends, and all the guys are hitting on her. And then she's telling him in prison, no, I'm being good, daddy. I'm being all right. I'm being faithful. And meanwhile, your girl's out there unprotected, getting taken by other men. And you think you're going to talk about prison, glorifying prison. Come on now. Come on. I'm not saying that all women do that. Don't accuse me of saying that. I'm sure there's some women that remain faithful. But now these guys are asking women to remain faithful. Young, beautiful women, some of them, asking them to remain faithful for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Come on. When you go in there, the large majority just lose their girl. And even if they're married, they lose their wife. I know this firsthand. Hundreds and hundreds of wives that just moved on, that couldn't take it. They couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with their husband being in prison. They couldn't deal with their boyfriend being in prison. And now you're locked up in prison with a bunch of men, a bunch of criminal, dirty, smelly, muscular men. And you have that no access to that beautiful woman that you were with. That's something to glorify? That's something to glorify? Think about that before you go into the prison system. That's a reality right there. That is a reality right there that the men who are glorifying prison don't tell you about. What about when they have to call home because they need money, because they're making they're making $14 a week at their prison job, and a grown man has to call mommy. Mommy, can you send me $50? Mom, can you send me $100? Or they're asking their girl who's out there working, supporting the kids, paying the bills. You leave the girl to pay the bills, to feed the children, to maintain the household, and then you're calling her. Can you send me a food package? Can you send me some money for commissary? Can you send me a pair of sneakers? You're humbling yourself. You've become a degenerate. But then you get on YouTube and glorify it. This is the reality of the situation. No way to live, man. No way to live. I'm wrapping this up, guys. I'm tired of people saying, well, glorifying prison. I may tell some war stories about prison because that is a part of prison. And I know that a lot of people are intrigued about prison. A lot of people have a curiosity about prison. And so I give you some of those stories about the craziness in there. But a lot of times I give you those stories to scare you from going into that situation. That's my point in telling you those stories. But no glorification here. It's a miserable place. Stay out of there. Love you guys.